Yeah, still on a topic on children. Well, we're going to move on from children to youths, especially teens, because after you finish high school, after you finish, you're going to move on to tertiary education, and this is a big, crossroad for a lot of them. And choosing what you want to pursue as your education background for your future is not an easy task.
No, it's not an easy task. And many a times, our parents do get involved in this process, as they would be,
Yes.
very much involved throughout the child's education. Now, of course, sometimes the teen may want to go and do something else, in the part, like music, and the father would say, "Oh no, you must read law, because that's what all the generation of men in our family have been doing."
Yes.
Now, how
it's a
do
typical
you...
scenario
Exactly,
that
it
you've
is,
heard
especially
from time
in
and
Asia,
time.
right?
Yeah, here and especially here in Malaysia. But how do you juggle the balance? How involved should a parent be in terms of being involved in their children's education? Well, to discuss this further, we have with us the coordinator of the International Bachelorette Diploma Program of Fairview International Schools, Dr. Vincent Chan. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, okay, I'm sure, like we were saying just now, I'm sure you face it a lot, a lot of times, your students have finished their high school and they're pre-U stage, they're about to, enter university life, but, of course, like youths are indecisive about what they want to do, and then parents step in and say, you must do this and that and do this and that. This is something I'm sure you face a lot.
Yes, definitely. It does happen quite often. Usually we try and speak to the parents, and I speak to both sides individually, right? Because often parents, they need their own little counseling advice as well as the kids.
Right.
No, my advice would really go along the lines of 3 steps, basically.
Right.
Firstly, engage your children. Make sure that it's sincere engagement, where you really want to listen to them and talk to them, and it's not Wong, come over here and read all these brochures and go and decide something quickly, or do law.
Right.
So it's sincere engagement, like, what do you really want to do? Look into their eyes and really ask them, what do you want to do?
Right.
That's
Listen,
the first
I think that's the key, isn't it?
It's engagement, really get into their head, really make them feel like you're there with them.
Right.
The greatest gift you can give them is the present. Then after that, listen to them and really be open-minded about what they want to do, because as parents, you're living in a generation today. In 20 years' time, when they enter the workforce, or 10 years' time, the world is completely different.
That's right.
Who could imagine the internet 10 years ago?
No.
Exactly.
What we understand today is completely different from what's coming out in 10 years' time. You cannot possibly hope to understand it at this point. And then finally, when they do finally make the decision, right or wrong, support them all the way down and let them know you can make mistakes. You are allowed to make mistakes, and that's where they feel the strength to move on by themselves, and they know that their parents are with them at that point.
What if, let's just say, a child wants to do something like dance? And then as a parent, you'd be like, oh, in Malaysia, what the work prospects? And of course, being a parent, you've already been working for several years, for years and years and years, and then you realize, or the challenges when it comes to looking for a decent job. What then? Should you still go ahead and support, or look for some sort of a compromise?
I think it's quite interesting to talk about arts in Malaysia and the practicalities of choosing a career line and so forth. It's well and good to choose a career line that is fascinating, like the arts, music, and some practicalities do apply. Like I said, once again, if you really support your child through it, even though they make what could be perceived as a mistake the first time around. I'm a medical doctor by profession and training, yet I work in a school.
Right.
Many other medical doctors work in finance, lawyers working as businessmen, engineers working as businessmen, businessmen working as engineers. The world of tomorrow doesn't mean that whatever you train in, you're going to get stuck.
Yeah.
By the age of 30, people estimate that you're going to change jobs about 5 times now in that next generation. So really, what you study right now, does it really bear much towards what you're going to be in the future? What you should be focusing on perhaps more isn't exactly the career of choice at this young age. Did you know what you wanted to do at 16?
Right.
Not really, no.
I didn't.
No.
At 27, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So shouldn't it be more about what are you being educated about at all? What's good education? Maybe that is the answer to it all.
Yeah.
That's what parents should be thinking. Instead of what career do you want your son going into, it's how can you truly educate your child? in the best way so that in the future he really gets it.
Learning to think, I think that's the first step. It's learning to think and then learning how to acquire knowledge. Because once you know how to acquire knowledge, whatever you want to do in the future, because you never learn until, I mean, you never stop learning until the day you die, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
In the program that we conduct, we believe in a key word called lifelong learning. It just means learning forever.
Yeah.
More importantly, actually, you touched on an important point. Actually, education is divided into 3 facets. If you want to really look at it. There's knowledge acquisition, memorizing textbooks, and recall. We all know this stuff.
Yeah. Then
there's skills, and then there's value education. There's 3 facets to this, and if you just focus on one, you've really missed out on everything else. The biggest determinant of counseling problems in adults, they found, through a study in New Zealand, is interpersonal relationship breakdown.
Right.
30% of all people who go to counseling is because of interpersonal relationships. So co-workers, boss, just knowing how to communicate properly, and working in a team.
Right.
And that destroys most people. That's a particular skill we need to teach our children, values.
Oh, that's severely lacking, I think, especially with, cultured layer on top of it. Our Asian culture is that we don't confront, we don't talk it out. There's no such thing. Don't question. You just listen to what I say, based on seniority and based on, I have more life experience than you. But again, as you mentioned, the world is changing. Some of these rules or cultural rules, it's very hard to apply in modern day society.
And that's a fantastic point you brought up about culture and where does it play in our society. I think there's a convergence of Western and Eastern cultures, and it shouldn't be about one overriding the other. Is there a convergence? Is there a way to actually mix the two properly? The problem is, when we finish high school, when we finish university, we're not taught certain skills, like what is culture in the first place, or how to deal with differences in culture. When we enter adulthood and working life, suddenly we're magically expected to know what to do about it. For example, teamwork. The concept that I was brought up with was 5 people. Okay, teacher, go stand in a corner and go team. Right. And for some magic reason, the 5 guys are supposed to know how to do this. There's actually a way of doing this. You can Google this in 15 seconds. My students can do this by themselves. Yet, why aren't we teaching this kind of thing? How to talk about it? Leadership. You Google word leadership, you have 13,000 results on Google. Why aren't we teaching this sort of thing in school? That's good education, teaching the skills, not just the knowledge, and then the values as well. What if we talked about, you and me, in class, we talked about, hey, what do you think about Asian culture and Western culture? Instead of you having to imagine it and forecast it and assume things when you're an adult, what if we really discussed this in class and you managed to have a chance to come up with your own concepts and ideas? Wouldn't you be such a more powerful person? And maybe out of class at break time, you're talking to your friends, oh, this hierarchy thing, there's a little bit of sense to it, because the world needs some sort of order. I mean, this concept of hierarchy is Confucian, 3,000 years old. Maybe there is a little bit of sense to it. Does it need to be discounted?
Right.
But I think they need to talk, they need to discuss, and this needs to be brought out in our education system, not assumed as a sideline when we try and further on in our life at the workplace, trying to figure all this out as we have children, as we have work. It's a horrible place to try and figure that out now.
So, okay, now as a parent, watching this, if they want to, parents' intentions are always, they want their best for their children. But how can they juggle that feeling of, feeling that they've been responsible, they've done their best as a parent, and also juggling the fact that, okay, it's their life, they need to do what they want. How can a parent come to terms with that?
I think I'll just keep it short to give you 2 simple concepts that I've learned over time from speaking to many respected educators. The first concept is this: sincere engagement. Really get down to with your child and talk to them. The gift of the present. Really give them your full attention, engage them, look them straight in the eye, and make them feel like I am here to listen to you. You are important to me. Really talk. That sincere engagement, this simple point. It's not come over here and read this because it's good for you. That's projection of what I feel is good for you. Really say, what do you think is good? That's really important. Once you can get that trust, everything will fall into place after that. Follow the steps one by one,
Right.
but start with sincere engagement. The second one is this: when you choose what education you want to go into, a good educator once told me, you want to choose a school, you want to see whether the school is good or a university is good, you find one attribute that you feel is important, like value, skill, leadership, or something that the school can't boast about. Not like an A or something they can have a gold medal to put on a newspaper. Find some obscure attribute, something valuable, like culture. Then you go into the school and ask them, how do you portray this in your school? How do you teach your kids this? They can't boast about it. They can't really publish in a newspaper. And if they've got it right, then you'll see that that will be important to them. Because they're not fighting and doing things as a business model. It's
Right.
done for educational purposes, and they've got their heart in the right place now.
Exactly. So that's a great way to find out.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the mission statement for the school, that
Yeah.
which they set out upon. I mean, the
Underlying
founders at
one.
least set out to do. Okay, but you know, for a parent to get to that point, yes, you know, the thing is that, you know, I think telling parents this is what to do, but getting themselves, because they've been brought up in a different way, they've been taught a different
Yeah,
way, and they
very
think
true.
in a different way. So for them to like I asked, to get that balance, to know that they are giving what the child needs, or the children what they need, but also overcoming their own self as well as a parent, you know.
It's really difficult to figure out what you're going to need for tomorrow. Children, for one thing, once you've engaged your child sincerely, you have to explore every option that's
Right.
available out there in the market. Explore every concept that's out there in the market with your child, slowly, step by step. Once you've engaged him, the kid will really want to learn. And at that point, when he wants to learn, he'll take you down roads you couldn't imagine. But you must engage him first. And then when he starts walking down those roads, you have to support him all the way and let him know that he can make mistakes, right or wrong. Then you've got to be updated. You've got to be one step ahead of your child without letting him know. You know, if you know he's going to start walking to the pre section, do your own pre-reading. Never push your thoughts down. But you can say, you can wait for the opportune moment when your child says, Dad, what do you think? And it's at that moment when they ask for their opinion, when it is most powerful.
Yes.
Wait for it.
Because they
wait for it.
value your opinion at that point.
That's the point.
Yes.
Don't go, well, son, you didn't ask for it, but this is my opinion.
These are several brochures I need you to read.
Yeah, Daddy, you know, yeah, oh, yes, that's perfect. And the child goes, well, I was going to ask you, but you've terrified me now.
Exactly. Now we've all been through it. Now let's talk about the child's perspective. You know, of course, there are a lot of choices to make when it comes to pre-U. So many things that you can do. So how would you? What advice would you give someone who is at that crossroad? You know, what decisions do I make? Where do I know which road to go down when it comes to choosing courses for pre-U?
Well, it's often a debate who is more terrified at this point, the parent or the children, but I think it's safe to say both are pretty much scared. I know that when I was choosing my own course, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But today, the world is even more cutthroat than ever. The competition is high, and the risk here is narrowing yourself down really early. People try and specialize what they want to do from the age of Form 3. You're going to science stream, art stream. I'm going to be a doctor at Form 3. You're 15 years old. How could you figure that out? No, hold on. The child needs to focus on what is education first. He's got to understand what he's doing over there, first of all. Once he looks within and he really picks up, why am I learning at all? What am I getting into? What is my purpose? Then he'll really start finding out what he wants to do. Once he builds that confidence in what he's trying to do, then he has the confidence to look forward to what he wants to do at that point first. So he's got to look within for the internal drive, what he wants to do. Then he looks outside for all the options that he likes to do. So you visit a career counselor, you take a look at jobs, you intern in under a doctor if you want to be a medic. Really find out what you want to do, and not just that, not just read, go there, feel it,
Experience
live
it.
the pulse, then go into it. But keep your options open. Try not to specialize too fast. I discourage people from specializing early because when you start closing doors, it's really hard to keep them open again.
Yeah.
There are many styles of education in the world. One style is to specialize straight away when you enter university. It's where it's training for vocations, training for a career. That's really fast, and I worry about that sometimes because it's too fast. There are other systems around the world that say, no, let's keep things open for a little bit longer because most of the students that graduate out anyway don't come into the vocation that they try getting into.
Right, that's right.
So keep it open. That'd be the more American type systems involved. So I prefer the more open system. Keep your choices open. Hold on. Wait. Don't rush.
Right.
It's really hard once you start rushing into it and making bad, brash mistakes.
So it's okay to take your time and think things over.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yep, you've got about 40 years of working life.
Your
Why rush?
life ahead of you. Why,
Yes,
why rush?
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Chan, for being on the show. It's really awesome that you're here, and just to help, answer some of the questions the parents probably are asking, and some students too, some potential or future pre-U students. Okay.
On that note, we need to take another quick breather, but still, coming up, everything a music